Hey everyone, it's Sam Mackay here from Enterprise DNA. Today we're going to do some more work on some procurement data. So, checking out the purchasing or analyzing the purchasing within an organization. So in this case, what we might want to do is we might want to just look at things on an average basis, right? So instead of looking at every individual purchase, if you were, say, a manager, you'd want to see, well, how are our average purchases in our departments going, for instance, and maybe you want to actually compare them versus a prior period, right? You might want to actually check out, well, are we purchasing way more on average in a particular month, on a month perspective, than we were same period last year or same period 6 months ago? So I'm going to show you how you can use a combination of techniques to actually work this out inside of Power BI. So I've already created a measure here which goes and calculates up the total amount of invoicing that we are doing. So what I'm going to do as well is I'm just going to quickly throw this inside a measure table just to make it a bit clearer. So I'm just going to put this inside something I call key measures. And I'm a big believer in these measure groups, so I highly recommend implementing them when you can. And I'm just going to move this one in there. Okay, so we've got invoicing amounts here, right? So now what we need to do is, well, we want to work out averages through time. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to look through time and see what time frame we actually are making purchases. So we've got all the way from January 2015 all the way to January 17. So we need to work out, well, I want to work out, well, on a department basis, how much are we actually invoicing per month? So at the moment, if I went and grabbed this this invoicing total and I put it against if I went and found my department context like so and added it into the axes, so you see here that it's very easy. It's very easy to go and get total. So the total invoicing over time. And it's then very easy to overlay, say, a slicer from your date table and then change this slicer and say, okay, well, I want to look at a shorter time frame, and then that's going to impact the context, and then it's going to update your models or update the results in your models. But say, for instance, within this date context, you actually want to see, okay, well, on average in the months in here, how much are we actually spending? How much are we actually spending per department? So how do you do it? Well, it's not, from where we're at right now, it's not significantly too much. It's not too much more advanced from where we're at. It just takes an understanding of how to use the average X function, and also what virtual table we want to place inside that average X function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do it, and we'll talk through how it all works. So I'm going to call this average monthly purchases, and then I'm just going to jump down to a new line, and I'm going to go average X. And then inside of here, you see here we can actually put a table. Well, the table that I want to place inside of here is a virtual table of every single month. And so how I'm going to find that is I'm actually going to go and find my month and year dimension inside my date table. And that is going to do the iterating for me. So average X is an iterating function, right? And so we need to give it a table to go and iterate through. Well, in this case, we're giving it a virtual table of every month and year. And that's what's going to create the average ultimately, because it's only going to calculate up the amount of month and years inside this context. That is then going to give us the average. And so then within here, I'm going to add my invoicing. I'm going to actually add my measure, invoicing totals. And just like that, if I copy and paste this and sub in my average monthly purchases, you will see that now this number is quite different. So if I just add some data labels here, and I might change the color as well. Might change the color just to make it stand out a bit. And so you see here that now the numbers, they're clearly much different. So I'm just gonna make this look a little bit better and place some formatting on these. And then I might also just not have any of these. Cool. So the average obviously is much lower than the total, right? But this is what we wanted to work out. We wanted to work out, okay, well, what is our average spending over this time period versus over this time period that we now have selected. So if I go and move this, you're going to see that that average is going to change, right? That average is going to change. Now I also said, well, we could actually work out, okay, well, we want to compare, right? So it's all good just looking at the average, but what if we actually want to compare our average purchasing over this time period? Well, we might want to compare it to a time period before. And so it's also from what we've got, and we're just branching out. I talk about this all the time. You start with your simple measures, and then you just branch out into more and more techniques, DAX techniques. And then so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go monthly. We'll call it average monthly purchases LY, and I'm just going to go calculate. This is where calculate comes in, and then I'm going to go average monthly purchases, then I'm going to use date add, and then I'm going to put dates in here. Number of intervals is -1, and remember you could actually create a range of different intervals there, but in this case we're just going to go year. And then now, based on this context, I can actually compare these now, and that's what I'm going to do in this chart here. I'm going to compare, and obviously I'm just going to format this one. And so now I'm going to compare within this one our average monthly purchases over the time frame we have selected here versus exactly that same time frame last year. So that's some pretty cool analysis, right? That's some pretty cool analysis that we were able to get to. It's very similar techniques that I use in a lot of videos that I put on Enterprise DNA TV. It's actually not that different, but I love showcasing it in just different data scenarios. And that's the cool thing about Power BI. They're very transferable. You learn a technique, you can transfer it to many different data scenarios. Time comparisons don't change no matter what data scenario you're actually working in, right? And very quickly we were able to get some pretty cool insight, and we could go even further, right? We could go way further. I mean, we could now branch out and say, well, what's the difference in average monthly purchases from this month to another month, this time period versus the other time period, and then we could work out, well, what's the percentage difference, and we could work out, well, what was the percentage growth through time. There's just so many different ways you can you can implement this and do it really quickly, right? Do it really quickly. I mean, it's so easy to go and just change this time frame and then just analyze, well, what was the difference, and then obviously that can you can identify or drill into. I mean, you could set this up where you could actually drill into this particular element and see, well, why? Well, what contributed to these purchases? Well, why do we purchase more here? Was it from a particular person within this function? Was it because we needed to grow the ability of the function to do more, so we were investing more in what they were doing, more services, more training, etc. So the the insights go on and on and on. Okay, I'm going to wrap things up there. This is a pretty new data scenario, so some procurement and purchasing information. So I want to go through a lot of the cool insights that you can extract from it. Hopefully you found this one really insightful. I go through a range of different reporting, data analysis type work and inside of Power BI, all inside of Power BI. Okay, all the best. Hopefully this you can implement some of these things in your own analysis. Good luck. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Enterprise DNA TV. If you enjoyed the content covered in this particular tutorial, please throw the video a like. It really helps us and we really appreciate it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Enterprise DNA TV channel. We have a huge amount of content coming out all the time from myself and a range of content creators, all dedicated to improving the way that you use Power BI and the Power Platform. Lastly, check out Enterprise DNA's website. Plenty of resources and further learning that you can access very easily. All the best. Take care.